Okay, we're live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, doing something titled The Epstein Files Anatomy of a Cover Up. And the reason I'm doing this show is because a lot of people kind of didn't get an overview of how the files dropped. The final drop was January 30th, 2026, about the data sets, the specifics, how it kind of developed over time and maybe the total importance of what happened. And I'm doing this on an interesting day, May 19th, 2026, which is the primary vote for Thomas Massey, who was a central figure in the release of the Epstein files, jumping party. And according to the returns, it's not looking good for him. So it's unfortunate day for him, for the country too, because these files are incredible. They implicate Trump, they implicate his whole administration, criminal act after criminal act after criminal act. And maybe one of the more important things covered up all this stuff and still being talked about. I did a show earlier on the Epstein files called Global Conflagration, which really is true. It's so many people lost their jobs. Once they realized how bad it was, people lost their jobs, and it's created a lot of problems in countries all around the world, a lot of exposure. So I've got a bunch of slides. I've got quite a bit of video. Uh, and like I said, this will be the intent behind this is to just clarify things that are vague. Was it because of the Republicans? Was it because of the Democrats? Was it because left, right? How did this happen? I mean, my take on the whole thing is that it was an issue and it was important to the American public. They kept talking about the Epstein list. I want a list of the perps. Like, why aren't the perps out? They didn't really know what was in these files. And it's definitely the drop is intentionally inscrutable. Like the way that this dropped through the DOJ, I mean, it's classic cover up stuff. It's not even my opinion. It's so poorly organized and things like this. In a civil suit, this would actually be censured by a judge. There are actual rules in civil litigation when a party has a massive amount of information and is required by discovery to give it over. You have to have that discovery properly allocated or like collated, or they're supposed to be kept in the usual course of business in a reasonably usable form. These aren't. And so I think that that's really it. So like I think it's done. There's actually rules and limit rules like the federal rules of civil procedure, right? So there's like criminal procedural rules out there. There's also civil procedural rules. And in civil procedure, one of the tricks is this kind of document dump. If you're like Standard Oil or something, okay, you want my documents here? Here's 30 billion documents. Have fun. But in a um, in a thing where it's considered abusive, it's like a strategic move. And I believe, in my opinion, this was the strategic move by the Trump administration because the way that the data sets were released, they were kind of orderly data sets in the first. There's 12 total data sets. And the first 8 were kind of reasonably released, and then they just dumped everything on January 30th. Like, there was 9, 10, and 11 are just huge. They're almost impossible to get through. And 12 is miscellaneous. Those are where the civil litigation files are actually that aren't necessary. Not everything in this whole, so you got to be careful. Not everything in the EFTA releases, the Epstein Files Transparency Act releases, are out of copyright. They're all the government documents are not copyrighted. They're in the public domain, but there are documents in these Epstein files that could be considered not third-party documents, which are covered by copyright or fair use. They're not considered, fair use. You can probably get around it by, commentary and things like that, but repeating them all in like a context could get you in trouble. So you got to be careful. Just caveat out there, just something to be careful about. But yeah, anyway, going back to this kind of data dump, it's actually in there in these general rules of civil procedure, civil litigation. So, I mean, basically they do it for tactical reasons to increase other side's costs. Um, and this is really considered to be a complex case. I would say this Epstein files. Um, so the civil courts would probably say something about the way that these files were dropped, and that would be my opinion, of course. But let's go into some of the stuff. I kind of intending to bounce between the PDFs and then some video, but I could probably extend this into a 10 part series, 10-hour series. It's so much information going on, so many other different parties, but these files are still important. Like I mean, there's incredible things that have happened really, even recently. Like I said, the day is May 19th. There were survivors in Congress on May 12th. They are up. There's a recent lawsuit. There is statements by Green, the girl who left office, like Trump is threatening her son. There's Massey was recently on Tucker Carlson on May. Tucker Carlson is probably eclipsed Joe Rogan as the biggest podcaster, biggest journalist in America now. So Thomas Massey was on Carlson on May 7th, talking about everything. Also, Melania had this incredible state. She like literally came out and by herself and made a statement, like an incredible statement without Trump being around. And said, like, I want this thing done. There's things that happened at Zorro Ranch. So New Mexico literally set aside $2 million to investigate what went on in Zorro Ranch, which was covered up in 2019. So that's part of this whole long-term cover-up, is that there were decisions made by the DOJ that went out to the states or the federal government or like the attorney, the federal attorneys out there, and say, don't look into this. This is incredible. There's also statements of Blanche. There was actually something today where Trump literally absolved himself from any tax, looking into any tax issues that he may or may have. Like it was put in this new bill for like $1.77 million, but it was like the United States releases, waives, and acquits and forever discharges each of the plaintiffs from, and hereby forever barred and precluded from prosecuting or pursuing any other counterclaims or causes of action. Like the acting AG, Bondi, is obviously fired. So there's a lot of very important historical events that took place around this event, this entire Epstein drop that took place or has been taking place. So, I mean, I'll just get into some of these files. They're just really incredible. It's really just a series of incredible events. Like, and nobody knew, if you remember, they wanted this. The EFTA was really just a one-page document. I'll get into that at some point. It was really just a one-page document saying, get all the documents out and get us a list. You're within 30 days of, I think, that the EFT being finally passed. They were supposed to have all the documents released and then a list of so-called things. And the list really, it didn't hit like people intended it to. The reason is because it wasn't as important as all the information probably that was distilled down into the Epstein emails, that people could ascertain all these emails between people and his relationships and how deep the relationships Epstein had with a lot of different people, including Trump. And in my opinion, what they tried to do is they just tried to blame everything on Epstein, and then Epstein conveniently dies, right? August 2019. And then, wash your hands of that like it's done. Let me see if people want to chat, you can go to, I'll put it in the show notes. Like the best chat is probably my biggest, my biggest YouTube channel, which is has 20,000 subs. I just put it in the chat for YouTube. YouTube's probably the best place to go. I have I actually have 4 different YouTube channels. I can't get into one of them, and one was taken away, so I actually had kind of 5, but that was a lot of YouTube drama. So, but yeah, the Kentucky seat seems to have gone the way of this guy Gallrein, who nobody seemed to like, and didn't really go out in public, to my knowledge, and didn't have this kind of thing, like didn't have the grassroots connections. But I mean, we'll see. I don't know what the final vote's going to be, but today is a good day to do this because Trump wanted him and was belittling Massey and all these other people, calling him a bad person. Guys, the crimes that are in the Epstein files are off the charts. I mean, it's incredible stuff. Going back, if you go to this first statement that went back in July when he was arrested, July 6, 2019 at Teterboro Airport. They had him under arrest, and like the FBI and all this, that people said, if you were abused, call the FBI. But the public never saw the stuff. But I just did a show on Sunday with Hans and Sean where we're going through all of the inputs that went into the FBI. It's just, there's thousands and thousands of documents. They never made it to the public. So that's another aspect of the Epstein files that's very important to understand and see, is that actually did happen. People did call, victims did call and gave information. Then there were 302s. 302s are statements taken by the FBI that are not necessarily under oath, but if you are deceptive on those, you can go to jail. It's a felony. Like, you don't lie on those 302s unless you really want to get in trouble. So here's the victim statement. If you call 1-800, call FBI. So this happened under Ray. And there's terabytes of information, not gigabytes. There's just massive amounts. The public has not seen, Congress didn't in my opinion, I think it's pretty evident. Congress didn't understand what they had. They were kept in the dark over everything. That they were looking for a list or like perps, but there's just tons and tons and tons of video. Epstein was a photographer and a collector of photographs. Some that are pretty benign and some are not benign. They're very graphic. Like, there's very graphic BDSM type stuff that was released and redacted that was from third parties. But even Blanche came out and said, like, there's 2.3 million files we're not releasing because they involve really dark stuff. I think he said death, torture, and CSAM on video. Like, this is him saying it, the acting attorney general. So what's in those 2.3 million files? And the real one of the other interesting aspects of this, the Epstein files releases, when did the redaction start? How did they know to redact, and who told them to redact? Because it wasn't under, it's a very important point. The redaction started almost right away after Trump came into office, January 20th, 2025. Right? So if you remember, I mean, depends on kind of from what media stream you drink from, but people on Fox News saw her all the time. I got it on my desk. She didn't have it on her desk. And there was a FOIA request trying to figure out something. I'll have to find this guy. But he got some FOIA, Freedom of Information on what was going on. And it turns out there were like 500 attorneys in Northern Virginia redacting all this stuff. And there was like internal emails that were released on the FBI in the Epstein files showing what to take out, what to redact. So there were redaction instructions within the DOJ, right? The FBI is underneath the DOJ. So it's a subset of the Department of Justice. So the head was Bondi, and then it was Kash Patel, right? So There were requests. And what also came out, which we'll see here, is there were 2 documents. This is Joff Berman. He was fired. He was involved in the arrest. He was the AUSA. I think he was the attorney for the Southern District of New York, right? So he's a federal prosecutor. He's involved. He does this thing. You can see him pointing right here at Epstein and the number to call, right? We know now, if you read through these files, that there's a massive amount of information that came in. People actually called that number, and it was never acted on, right? So then the public was, this is kind of the duplicity. Public was told Jeff, it was just Jeff and Ghislaine, and to leave it at that, while people are calling in saying, why aren't you doing something? I think Maria Farmer right now is suing the FBI, like for inaction for like a civil rights case. I don't know the details, but because the FBI didn't do something. But this is really important. It's really important to go back, kind of memorialize this and remember what happened as this rolled out. Like, because what we're finding, like in these Epstein files, is really dark stuff, right? Super dark. He's much different than just a mere pedophile. He's a pedophile. He's a convicted pedophile. He's a self-admitted pedophile. You can call him that. But it's like his network and his contacts and his Rolodex and talking to all these people, his connection to the technate, to crypto, to Bannon, to Trump, to the Trump family is all in here. So let me go to FTA. Let's go to this. I just showed Berman, right? So that's Berman. He was pointing at that 1-3 thing. But one of the things that, and this was interesting, like it just shows all the investigations that were going on with Epstein at the time that he was arrested or after. This is an internal document that was dropped, and you can just see that EFTA number. It's EFTA 00164-939. And they have their own timeline. So this is helpful, the timeline leading up to stuff. Maxwell, his so-called suicide attempt. These are all fake. My opinion, looking at the evidence, he was killed. He was supposed to be killed right away. There's actually something when he was arrested in 7/6/2019 where they're asking him if he's suicidal right away. So when they arrested him at Teterboro, it was very important for them to try to ascertain whether Jeff was suicidal. But these are 3 investigations. So you see this child sex trafficking, obstruction of justice, New York, is like Miami or something. So there's concurrent investigations, and this is an internal file. And it goes through all his past. So I guess that the is the original ones, the one of Palm Beach stuff that happened in 2006. Was the felony indictment, 60 counts. Remember, that's one thing that's covered up about this whole Epstein thing that went back in 2007, is that there was a 60 count indictment and he was only convicted of 1 count, right? He was offered stuff, like he was negotiating, and that was Acosta. So the consequences of everything that Epstein have influenced our political system at an extraordinary level. It's just, it really is true. And it's, not, I don't think it's palpable. People don't understand how intense it is. So here you go, 9/2008 reports to jail. There's stuff in these files, by the way, of them saying that Epstein didn't fulfill the requirements of his probation. So I can bring those files up too. Like he literally didn't, they were literally going to go take him back to court over not following the requirements of his probation. Although I can say he and his attorneys, under a different email, like than a standard email, they were very fastidious in making sure that his sex offender registry stuff was done every 6 months, because he had to do it for all 4 jurisdictions that he traveled around in. So after his conviction, he had to file stuff every 6 months with Virgin Islands, Florida, New York, and New Mexico. Then there was an obstruction of justice. I think that was Rodriguez. Items referenced above was the black book, right? Payments made to victims and things, handwritten notes. Um, then in 2018, so you can see in these emails, he kind of knows something is going on with him. Like he senses something in late 2018 and 2019. Like there are responses. He seems to know there was an investigation, and this really took place after I think the publication of the Julie K. Brown 3 articles in the Miami Herald. And these are the tips. I'm telling you, I told you about the tips and stuff like that. So the tips came in even before it looks like the he was arrested. So 291 national threat operation NTOC tips, 52 anonymous. FBI followed up on 239, 27 spot resulted in secondary contact. So according to their own internal documents in this EFT thing, they actually did follow up. And it was international. 91 identified victims at that point. Investigators are aware there are numerous unidentified victims who did not come forward and could not be identified by investigative means, and overseas victims in United Kingdom and Sweden. Like it's literally telling you all the details. And this is before he was arrested. Then things are under seal. Then the search warrants. He's arrested, and then they break in, and they have all the pictures of this break, like when they literally broke down the door and entered 99 East 71st Street. That's the mansion. Talk about the items seized, CDs, photographs, costumes, erotic sculptures, sex toys, massage table, cash disbursement, records, letters. So that's it. Search warrant. Then they had a broader scope search warrant on the 11th. They seized desktops, hard drives, recorders, tablets, CDs, DVDs. He was taking pictures and filming everything. So, like, imagine if those were publicized. Like, they're not publicized, but they have all the blackmail that he was doing. So when after Trump came into office, all that stuff, they're going through all that stuff. Then the search warrant for Little St. James, I remember that. They did the same thing. Surveillance system, phone system, CDs, DVDs, hard drives, desktops, laptops. None of this, to my knowledge, was released, and a lot of it was redacted, right? So these are just incredible. Financial victims paid in cash. 21 million was transferred from Epstein's accounts to Maxwell's accounts from 2007 to 2011. Then promptly moved to other accounts associated with Epstein. So he transferred to Maxwell and then back to him. 17,000 done. Highly responsible, CSAM, so child sex abuse material. They call it highly responsive material. 85 gigs of it. Over 1 million images and videos were extracted. They're not released. Those were not released in the EFTA. So if somebody who's smart at the Congress, they should, if they are capable, or if they can pass more legislation, they should ask for this all to be released. 34,000 were marked responsive. Some not produced. Adult pornography. Generic. There's the victims all redacted in this document. Indictment was produced in July secretly. And then these arrested 7-6 Teeterboro. Attorney proffers. FBI attended proffers. A lot of proffers. This is my understanding. I wasn't a criminal attorney in any sense of the thing, but what happens when these investigative people are trying to investigate things, or the federal government is, what they do is offer this proffer with somebody to come forward and tell somebody something without any criminal exposure. And they call it a proffer. So like we want to get some information from you, but we're not able to prosecute you on the information you provide. That's my understanding. So they did that, and they redacted that too. Very strange. 8:10, Epstein found, this is Saturday morning, he's found unresponsive. There's pictures of it in there. I've gone through it. I've done the MCC things. You can go back through my videos. Like, I mean, they brought that Tovel Noah girl who was yesterday, actually. Like, the timing of this is important because yesterday she was brought in, who was the security guard, and they're still publishing this. They have no idea. Like, it seems like they're not clear at all what was going on inside the MCC. They don't understand what the shoe is. They don't understand that it's a jail within a jail. They don't understand which video is important. They don't understand the camera. They keep pushing out this. I think it either has to be an intentional deception or just idiocy. Like, they keep pushing this video camera that's not the germane salient video camera for Epstein's cell. It's not his. They don't. Then, according to their internal documents, that camera stopped working like a week or two, 10 days before Epstein was found dead. So they're saying that that camera's broken, and you can see the pictures within. I've showed it in the MCC. I'll have to go over it again, but you can see it in there that there's no video actually of his cell, which is very. I mean, it's very strange. Like, they're not telling who else was in the shoe because you could be inside a jail, inside another jail, inside the shoe, and if you just nobody else from the outside jail will ever know what's going on in the special unit. Epstein was inside a special internal unit of the Metropolitan Correctional Center. It's just more cover up stuff. This Tartaglione guy, the first so called suicide attempt, when they keep asking him, "Are you suicidal?" No, no, not suicidal. And then somebody comes in from the outside and says, "Are you suicidal?" He's like, "They tried to kill me." Epstein's telling somebody because he doesn't trust the people at the jail. That's in their own internal documents. And some people have said to me, well, those could all be faked. Well, if they're fake, why don't they just continue with the story that he committed suicide? Why would you have fake documents that are contradictory? And this is elementary stuff. And here's Tova Noel. She's mentioned here on this slide 14. She was just in Congress, so secretly, secretly interrogated, I guess. SDNI charged CEOs Michael Thomas and Tova Noel with false records and conspiracy and entered into a 6-month deferred prosecution agreement in May 2021. As of the case closing, the terms had been satisfied. During an interview in 2019, Epstein's second roommate made the below note. Told me, J.E. didn't hang yourself up in my cell. Don't try to kill yourself in the cell. I don't want to wake up to find you dead. He said, don't worry, I'm never going to cause you trouble, J.E. said after legal visit. Then Maxwell gets her indictment the following year, arrested on July 2nd, 2020. Then another indictment. If I remember her original, I've done all this work. You can scroll through my old William Ramsey Investigate stuff. Because I actually did a show with Roberta Glass the day after Epstein was found dead, because we were really interested in that, in this whole case. And she's in New York. She actually went to the Maxwell trial. Roberta Glass. True Crime Report. Go check it out. This is just really interesting. It's just like you can see this. And here's all the prominent names. Trump. Blank state Epstein introduced her to Trump, who subsequently forced her head down. This is what they had. This is the government had this. They put together this file. I don't know when it was made, but somebody could ask questions. EFTA 00164-956. Down to his exposed penis, which is subsequently bite or bit. In response, Trump punched her in the head and kicked her out. Blank remembers Epstein introduced her to Trump, saying, "This is a good one, huh?" And Trump responded, "Yes." These are kind of known things in the file. Weinstein is part of the Epstein network, Harvey Weinstein. So people who went through that Me Too and all that stuff, they didn't know the amount of how much Epstein was involved. There's that kind of infamous picture of Harvey Weinstein with Epstein in like this ridiculous military outfit, and then Ghislaine Maxwell in kind of like, masquerade outfit. I think they were at something having to do with Prince Andrew. but I don't think people knew the totality. There's a lot more of Harvey Weinstein here. And there's weird NTOC documents, which I just explained earlier, like connecting Weinstein with Jimmy Savile. I mean, it is so absolutely crazy. Savile and Maxwell, like these just notorious characters. And Abramovich, I mean, it's really something like Thoreau was interviewing Abramovich. I've done her too, but like she's in the Epstein files. There's no question about it. She was the Edge Foundation, like, and that some of these head people tried to set up all these technate types, like the Silicon Valley types, with her. Oh, she's a really cutting edge artist, all this stuff. I can go through that again. I've done that already. Blank Weinstein gave Weinstein a massage during which he fondled her, masturbated, and offered to pay her extra if he could ejaculate on her chest. Weinstein came to her apartment, offered her a job, and tried to follow her into the shower. This is consistent with other statements about Weinstein. Epstein told her to give Weinstein a massage, during which Weinstein tells her to take off her shirt. She refuses. Then Weinstein threatens to get women to come force her to. Glenn Duman, Prince Andrew, who was arrested, like one of the first arrests of a royal in 400 years. Blank stated Maxwell told her to make Prince Andrew happy by doing the exact same things to him that she did for Epstein because he is a good friends with Maxwell. Steve Scully witnessed Prince Andrew on Epstein's island grinding against a young girl. Who's Steve Scully? I don't know who that is. Prince Andrew and Epstein flew on Epstein's plane. Jess Staley, this is the guy from JP Morgan. Leon Black. Stories of rape. Les Wexner, Alan Dershowitz. Gave massage to Epstein's plane. Not a Bill Clinton. Blank, not a victim. In Epstein case, claims she was invited to an orgy with Clinton but did not attend. Lutnick. Reported that Lutnick made money through Ponzi schemes. In money laundering, Lutnick and Epstein were neighbors, and Epstein and Lutnick sold Lutnick a home for $10, which was then sold for millions. One NTOC, followed by Blank, stated Barr and Black were present during abuses. Blank stated he was Epstein's for a model event. Ran into Barr, who stated he wanted to see her next time he came. At another part, Epstein asked if she had ever met Barr. Barr was the attorney general for Trump. He was overseeing all this stuff, right? Like, you just can't make this stuff up, guys. And Barr's dad, of course, was the Dalton School, ran the Dalton School. His dad was OSS, so pre-CIA in World War II. And it's a strangely small world. Misconceptions based on review of evidence and the victim statement. No orgies or threesomes, which included 2 males. Victims were not held captive. Epstein did not regularly prostitute the victims in exchange for money, as far as they know. So this is like some internal document. I think it's interesting, but you can go check that out yourself. It's not hard to find. This is also interesting. This is from Epstein file search. FBI opened an investigation into the Wexner Foundation's financial connection to Epstein, closed it the same day. The EFT number, EFTA 012498848. So there's all these weird things: closures, cover-ups, firing of Joffrey Berman. And then there's Ray right there. Like, he's there from 2017 at the FBI up until Patel is brought in supposedly November 30th. Well, he really started January. That was the announcement, actually, was when they won. But some of the stuff took place under Mueller. Or Ray, excuse me. And Comey's like, right now, he's like being prosecuted. This is Melanie Stanbury, another representative. Yesterday, the New Mexico DOJ began its investigated Zero Ranch. Why did the FBI tell New Mexico to drop its case in 2019? Who asked them to do so and why? This is why the new investigation is so important. I'm grateful to both the New Mexico DOJ and the New Mexico's legislature's Epstein Truth Commission. Survivors have waited too long for justice, and New Mexico's leading the way. They sure are. And that's the Truth Commission was like 2000. So it's a substantial layout of funds, $2 million just for one place. I'll do a show just on the Hell Ranch or Ranch because there's a lot there. It's a weird place. It's like an ornate, like palace in the middle of nowhere. It's so strange. A lot of these places have the feel, and even Little St. James does, of like a Disney two-dimensional stage set. It's really weird. Like it's not lived in. Like it's almost like a fake movie studio set or something. There's just a weird element to it where they're not lived in. Like there's an eerie secondary purpose. Like it's a facade. Like there's facades and stuff. It's just so strange. There's Maureen Comey is involved. So there's Comey being prosecuted right now. His daughter was involved in this person saying that she was involved in the order came from the assistant ASUA, Maureen Comey, the daughter of disgraced former FBI director James Comey. She may be the AUSA, but in 2019, who's in power and who's running stuff, right? I think it's the end, right? When did Trump leave office? At the end of 2020, is that right? More documents from Epstein. Another slide, EFTA 1682078. Knowing and noting all these kind of connections between Epstein and other parties, Darren Indyke, Harry Beller. A lot of pictures of him with his accountant. Richard Kahn, authorized agent, Ghislaine. They're not very good at facial recognition because that's not Jean-Luc Brunel. He kind of looks like Brunel, but it's not him. Other lists of potential, this is on the same document. Suspected co-conspirator. They're using the word co-conspirator. Brunel, Maxwell. I think Brunel died in 2021, conveniently in jail. Very interesting. Victims. People contacted by the attorneys. Just a list of victims. Look at this list of victims. I believe this is dated in 2019. And then other people seen with Epstein, alleged recruiters, chefs. So that's another. His chef in Florida was Richard Mullen. I bet he got stories to tell. So very interesting. Now, this is really an interesting document because this is after 2019. These are all redacted for some reason. And it's very strange because these aren't supposed perpetrators or victims. This is just going to the FBI. But it's something that happened about, after Epstein dies on the 10th, within 2 weeks, they're like talking about something. After much engagement with HQ, I think it's FBI HQ, for the past 48 hours, our efforts to both consolidate and limit the reporting requirements. Headquarters is now requesting updates in a conference call to be held at 2:30. Trust me, nothing you're thinking right now hasn't already been communicated to the highest levels. In my opinion, it's largely driven by the DOJ. Is it inconvenient? Yes. Regardless, we'll need to support the calls because those of you all deal with in CID are the exact same position as you. We should support each other and push through. Here's some of my thoughts on how we should go forward. Many questions I'm receiving are driven by media reporting. Maxwell, New Mexico resident search. If you see sustained reporting on one aspect, get ahead of it. For example, media has been all over the location and role of Maxwell as a co-conspirator. So this is like media analysis within the FBI. Get ahead of the stories. I advise that based on the volume and quality of evidence we have, the team is currently focused on charges for a different co-conspirator. So they knew or were thinking, this is so important. The FBI at the time after Epstein's death was thinking about a different co-conspirator, right? But the public's being told there were only two people involved in this, Maxwell and Epstein. However, we've engaged with counsel for all co-conspirators. Kill the rumor before it gets legs in the minds of senior leadership. kill the rumor. Like, this is like catch and kill, this whole thing about who's actually strangely part of the network, because it was Woody Allen, the actress who was the head of who was in Rosemary's Baby. Her son wrote that book, Catch and Kill, about Weinstein, who we just mentioned. He's part of the Epstein network. Kill the rumor before it gets legs in the minds of senior leadership. With regard to interviews or other investigative techniques, stay general unless we have significant information. So this is all media, manipulation and stuff. You could say we conducted interviews of 14 MCC corrections officers, right? So the Metropolitan Correction Center, and continued with the financial analysis, but don't have anything significant. See, so they're like covering up. Well, what's the right word? They're shaping information, in my opinion. Only give names of an interviewee if there's something significant. If we don't have significant results to report, it's okay to say so. Be mindful that most, if not all, of what you say will be pushed to the seventh floor. This goes back to Comey and this whole seventh floor group, which I think is an important component of this case, because there were old stories about Trump. Things would go to the seventh floor, and there was some kind of internal group that was manipulating things, I think, pertaining to Russiagate. So you see that the overlap of these things is also going to the Epstein. I have to use proper words of like what happened with the Epstein situation. This is like incredible documentation, guys. I cannot emphasize this enough. It shows how sloppy a lot of these researchers into the Epstein files are. They don't key into some of this very important stuff. From their own documents, by the way. This isn't me writing. This is, you can verify this. This is from their drop, EFTA 00146841. Tuesday is a big day with the hearing, so be prepared to talk on Monday and beyond. You can provide the approximate number of victims expected to attend and any efforts we have in making that happen. On Tuesday, you'll give the readout of the hearing and your reporting over the next few days and weeks. Stay focused on the investigation of the co-conspirators. So they're investigating the co-conspirators. And stay tight with the SDNY on conversations they're having with counsel in the direction we're headed towards charges. This is evidence from the FBI, right? So this is all the redacted. I don't know who they're sending it to, but it's clearly New York FBI. It says it right there, that they're investigating co-conspirators. Redacted on Wednesday, redacted. I've continually expressed to HQ how C19 and C2 are tight on the drug sex case. So these are people who are involved in a drug sex. You can speak together about that case. We're focused on analysis of the phones as well as the nature and timing of likely charges. I talked to Blank and know that you guys have a couple of big interviews that will determine if the PC case has any legs or facts. Any legs, or if it gets shut down. I would focus on advising the timing of those interviews. It's unbelievable stuff, man. They're investigating co-conspirators. That's the gist of this. Then we go to Berman's names on this, the heavily redacted document. I could go through this whole thing. I've done it before, but this is like one of the things that he put together. The date is December 5th. This one was August 25th, the one I just did, right? But he's grinding. He and his team, Berman's team at the Southern District of New York, put together like a 45-page document about corporate prosecution analysis. So they're thinking about prosecuting corporations, right? And we'll see the next one is other co-conspirators, another heavily redacted document. In connection with the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein for sex trafficking, we've been asked to analyze the feasibility of bringing criminal charges against one or more Epstein-controlled corporate entities that formerly owned properties of which he abused certain minor victims. As described herein, the well-established requirements for prosecution of a corporation are that its agent or agents committed criminal acts while, 1, acting within the scope of corporate duties, and 2, intending at least in part to benefit the corporation itself. And then he explains this below. This memorandum presumes familiarity with the relevant prior case memoranda, as well as the charges set forth in U.S. v. Epstein, and similarly presumes that the corporate agent Epstein himself committed criminal acts. This is a whole huge document. It's heavily redacted. I mean, let me see if I can bring this up. EFTA. 082. Oh, 82. Oh, yeah. So let's bring it up. I'll just scroll through this so you can see the enormity of it. Oh, this is the co-conspirators. This is the corporate co-conspirators. This was the one that Mace, the representative Mace, commented on my X when I posted this, saying this is one of the most important documents. She was right. So this is from December 19th. So this is the follow-on to the one which I just brought up, which was the corporate document. This is the investigation of the co-conspirators. This is long, like they did a lot of work. This is not like a sloppy job. This is 86 pages, heavily redacted. There's some stuff is not. Look at the time. I mean, you have to step back and say, who did all this redactions? Look at the time going into this. Like, how did they know to redact all this stuff? So it has background, has like important background on the whole case. Interviews with victims who were abused as minors. So that's all on there. Just going all over and over. These are like almost like the NTOC documents that came in. But yeah, this is an incredible doc. It's EFTA 273. I mean, I could just read this one thing. The importance is that Joffrey Berman was in the process of analyzing other potential co-conspirators. And it does have names, like some aren't redacted in some of these documents. This is one of the interesting things you'll find. They talked to the counsel for Groff, which is Epstein's secretary, I guess. But like they're talking to their counsel, Brunel, Waxner. Like that's how far they went. A lot of this stuff never made it to the public. Counsel for Ghislaine on October 8th. On October 8th, 2019, Maxwell's attorneys provided us with an attorney. All that stuff, to me, in my knowledge, I could be wrong. There may be other people who covered this, but not to my knowledge, this was not publicized. This is just worth reading through one thing just to like get an overview of all the stuff. But like, why is all this redacted? They do have their names. Ghislaine, Leslie Groff. One redacted there. So it is really something else. I'll get to the once I hit the hour mark, I'll go through the chat. That's the co-conspirator document. I think I already did that one. Yeah, it's a repeat. And then just a little bit on Berman. Jeffrey Berman served as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, a position he held from January 2018 after being appointed. He handled high-profile cases, including the prosecution of Michael Cohen, right? So that's Trump. Investigation into Rudy Giuliani, and the case against Jeffrey Epstein. His firing unfolded dramatically in June 2020. Late on June 19th, Attorney General William Barr, there he is again, right? He's mentioned in the FBI files. I just went over that as being on site with Leon Black. That's what they said, not me. Issued a press release announcing that Berman was stepping down on July 3rd and that SEC Chairman Jay Clayton would be nominated as his replacement. Berman quickly responded with a statement denying he had resigned. See, I remember this. He did not resign. He was canned, my opinion. Asserting he had no intention of doing so until a Senate-confirmed nominee was in place, and vowing that ongoing investigations would continue unimpeded. He publicly stated that he had ongoing investigations when Barr said no. This public standoff raised immediately concerns about potential interference in SDNY probes. The next day, June 20th, Barr sent Berman a letter stating that at Barr's request, President Trump had fired him effective immediately. So they tried to kind of like subtly elbow him out, and he said no, and then he said, "You're fired." Barr accused Berman of prioritizing public spectacle over public service. Oh, it was public spectacle. and dismissed concerns that his removal would affect pending cases. Well, these things never came to public. So these potential co-conspirators, they were never charged, they were never prosecuted, and these files were never seen by the public until the EFTA, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, right? So they were not known. Trump later distanced himself, telling reporters that decision was the most transparent president in history. Telling reporters that the decision was Barr's and that he was not involved. Sure. Those sources indicated Trump had pushed for Berman's removal for months. So other sources say Trump was moving for that removal for months. I wonder why. Berman agreed to step down that day after Barr confirmed his deputy, Audrey Strauss, would take over as acting U.S. attorney, ensuring continuity. The broader context involved accusations that the firing was motivated by Berman's office pursuing cases politically damaging to Trump amid his re-election campaign. So that was the campaign time, right? Trump had reportedly complained about the SDNYs being filled with Democrats out to get him, with tensions over the Cohen and Giuliani probes specifically. Barr's relationship with Berman had also soured, and the episode fit into a pattern of intervention in cases involving Trump allies, such as Roger Stone and Michael Flynn. Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, criticized it as potentially corrupt and improper. The White House countered that the move was to install Clayton and that Berman refused to transfer to another DOJ role, denying any link to investigations. In his 2020 memoir, Berman alleged pressure from Trump allies to protect friends and target enemies. So that's Berman. I showed Berman right at the beginning. We can go back here. Here he is pointing at the picture of Epstein with the phone number right there. And then he gets canned. They tried to elbow him out. They said it right here. And then they said, you're fired. So there's Mace. She commented on the co-conspirator document. I had a lot of, like, when I posted certain stuff about Epstein, I had incredible, like, some stuff that they hadn't seen about Bannon, about this girl from Brazil being trafficked, and this picture of Epstein with a potential victim in bed smiling. I don't know who took that picture. So there's a third party or an installed camera. But like these things, like I had 10 million views each, like crazy. Like people retweeted and reposted them and stuff like that. So there was great interest in some of the information that hadn't been seen by the public. But yeah, Nancy Mace. This is one, I think, from 2025. It's been over a month since we wrote the United States Attorney Office at the SDNY, and there's still no answer. She wanted the unredacted memo that I just showed you about the co-conspirators. The DOJ claims the memos came to them already redacted from the SDNY. If so, what are they hiding? Why won't they answer us? Who are they protecting? Are they already redacted? So when did these redactions start? That's a question people should be asking themselves, because it's pretty clear, and I'll show it here, that there were redactions taking place before the EFTA. And I'm not sure the public really keys into that the redactions were taking place under Bondi. So this is pictures and videotapes. This is another thing that came in August 2020. This is in the files. I believe this is from, I don't know who sent this, but basically somebody's saying, I've got all this information and I want to send it to you. And I would work there and I have videotapes, memory cards, and pictures that were found hidden in the Manhattan house. And if she's like, I'm in Colombia. I'll only release some material, not for all political reasons. If you wish to speak with me, you can call me or WhatsApp me. My wife and I are Catholics and wish no money at all for this. Just 3 weeks ago, I found about this because I speak English. My grandmother trusts me. Thank you. So it's just another one of these things, like rando things that came in here and didn't go in. 2023, this is Christy Greenberg. Epstein's lawyer and accountant were part of his human trafficking operation. Virgin Island governor tried to shut down the AG's investigation, get the AG's case filed for evidence. No sign that FBI followed up. Why? So this is March 2026. Then we get to, these guys are all so important. Bongino and Patel, because their statements, they really, when the election was taking place back in 2024, this was a central plank of their approach was release the Epstein files and yeah, we wanted perps and who else is involved in the list, and then they just flipped. And this is like some of the show episodes where Bongino was talking about this stuff on his own podcast. 2024 breakdown newly released Epstein docs. He discussed shocking revelations, pushed for more transparency. These are all available. Said the same thing in February. Said 2019, talking about powerful figures, 2021, 2019 again. Multiple 2023 episodes where Bongino urged listeners not to let the Epstein story go, questioned the suicide, and implied powerful people were hiding a client list or tapes. And then this is pushing towards the Democratic Party, right? September 2024 episodes discussing the Epstein client list is a huge deal that would rock the Democratic Party. And why is it being hidden? So it sounds to me, it's like they shaped it to as a weapon against the Democrats. And then, and then there's her, this witch. She shouldn't be wearing a cross. Bondi. And something happened on the same date in 2025. And the lead up in Patel was in here. I don't know where I put my Patel stuff. But Patel, Trump, and all these things. We can go through some of the Trump statements leading up to the election. And then his statements in office, just like, oh, it's a Democratic hoax. Or are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? He does that one. I think I'll read the comment. Go to the comments now. But yeah, like I said, I can do like 10 hours of this. Like I barely scratched the surface of this. There are piles of video stored somewhere. Yeah, no question. There's massive amounts of information. There's absolutely no question. Foster boys to Little St. James. I don't know about that. I guess CA officer trafficking foster boy. I don't know what was there going back. I really don't. I only know it as owned by Epstein. What was the background of Little St. James before Epstein? I don't know. Stansbury posted a video today. This lovely sheep saying Zorro Ranch was never investigated. You're right. I don't think it was. Not formally. OTO arranged the death of the greatest threat, Adam Alistair Woodward Smith. Who the hell is that? Complete gatekeeper. Dude. Honeypots everywhere. Gatekeeper. I'm the opposite of a gatekeeper on the OTO, guys. Give me a break. I've written books about Crowley. That's ridiculous. Trump is a bigger POS than JE. He's involved in the network. There's absolutely no question about it. It's not even arguable. Something really important happened on the same date. If you remember going back to February 7th or February 2025, this is Trump in office. He was only in office a month. He had that kind of ridiculous Transparency Act. That's a show in itself, is like who's involved, what happened to those people, who promoted it. The white binder event, remember? The clowns walked out and all the stuff, and they bragged, they got everything. And it was all information that had already been divulged or redacted from Maxwell's account. I'd already known that stuff. So when they brought that out, it was immediate that I knew that they were full of baloney. Total baloney. So this is February 27th. That same day, this was sent by Bondi to Patel. This is a verified document. You can see that. February 27th, Bondi to Patel. Before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 pages of documents. That's nothing. Consisting primarily of flight logs, Epstein's list of contacts, and a list of victims' names and phone numbers. I would repeatedly question whether this was the full set of documents responsive to my request, and was repeatedly assured by the FBI that we'd received the full set of documents. 200 pages. Look at this in context. This is nothing. There were like 3.5 million pages of documents released under the EFTA, with 2.3 million reserved, and God knows how many terabytes of video. I repeatedly questioned whether this was the full set of documents responsive to my request. Late yesterday, I learned from a source that the FBI field office in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein. Despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the existence of these files. When you and I spoke yesterday, you were just as surprised as I was to learn of this new information. When you and I spoke yesterday, you were just as surprised as I was to learn this new information. What? They didn't know. So they're coming in under this kind of situation where they don't know all the details. Congress didn't know. Even people in this office may not have known how much was actually aggregated, how much information was aggregated under these investigations, maybe even under Berman. Like, there's no time and date that said that's when the government took possession of all of Epstein's emails. And I think that must have happened after his arrest. And so nobody had really even gone through them back, I think, in 2019 or 2020 under Berman. But the emails are really the big tells, because they show the connection, the kind of Venn diagram or something of all of Jeffrey Epstein's sordid buddies, Woody Allen and all these other creeps. By 8 a.m. tomorrow, February 28th, the FBI will deliver the full and complete Epstein files to my office, including all records, documents, audio, video recordings, and materials related to Jeffrey Epstein with his clients, regardless of how much such information was obtained. There will be no withholdings or limitations to my or your access. The Department of Justice will ensure that any public disclosure of these files will be done in a manner to protect the privacy of victims in accordance with law, as I have done my entire career as a prosecutor. I'm also directing you to conduct an immediate investigation on why my order to the FBI was not followed. You will deliver to me a comprehensive report of your findings and proposed personnel action within 14 days. I have not seen that. And I don't think that was in the files. Maybe it was. But she wants personnel action. So this is one of her strongly worded letters. But she wants all the information, and then she wants all the info. This is such a strange document in context with what happened publicly, right? I appreciate your immediate attention to this important matter. I know that we are both committed to transparency for the American people. No, you're not. And I look forward to continuing to work with you to serve our president and our country. So that's February 27, 2025. One of the other things that she did when she first came to office, too, is she shut down the OCDTF, which was some kind of like office that looked at white collar crime. So that was shut down. And there's Patel. Patel's mentioning all this stuff too. He's talking about Benny Johnson on 2023. Criticized the lack of releasing. The reason the Epstein client list wasn't out was simple, because of who's on it. He urged Republicans to put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are. Glenn Beck, 2023. When asked about Epstein's black book, Patel stated he was under direct control of the director of the FBI, and implied the current director, Christopher Wray, was holding it. I think that the unredacted version is out there. There's no question. He would, Glenn Beck, he was on Glenn Beck. So he's on all these things saying, I'm going to do this. He told Marsha Blackburn he would do everything in January 30th, 2025. The full weight of what happened. So, these guys are all in all. There's Blackburn asking him a question. The Epstein list is coming. That's what they were talking about a year ago. This is confirmation hearing. And so you had this 27, where? These PDF files are all freaking jumbled. Let me go back here, see if I can find this. This is the release. So this is the guy, I forgot his DC Drano. Epstein Files Phase 1. So where's Phase 2 and 3? It's got Kash Patel's name. This happened on February 27th, 2025. So that same day that I showed this earlier document here, this is the same day that Bondi sent this thing with personnel things. And here's like the event, February 27th, declassified a group of approximately 15 prominent conservative and right-wing figures, including Scott Presler and Liz Wheeler. And that was it. So that was February. And there they are. There's this whole clown show. Posobiec, Cernovich, Presler, Wheeler. Forgot this girl's name. I forgot her name. But this was like this public event. There's pictures of them sitting at the table too. And the information in this one binder is just a total clown show. It's a total fraud. These people all got clowned. I'm not, this is shocking stuff. What to know about the Epstein files? A perfect recipe for conspiracy theories 10 months ago. They didn't know how bad it was. There's Posobiec holding the folder. MAGA hats and their stupid hats. No new bombshells, right? Because it was already released. There's nothing in there. The new files are absolutely incredible, guys. They're just mind-blowing. What was released under the EFTA. And the inactivity of the government is just like shocks the conscience. It's really that bad. Anyway, I had those mixed up in a not a good way. But it's important to go back. So there's Blackburn. But this is really one of the more important documents. It's unredacted, but it's a request from the director. So I'm assuming that's March 24th, 2025. And responsive materials index. And this is after the February 27th letter from Bondi to Patel. We here at SDNY remain ready and willing to provide any information the FBI requests in this case. I've had the chance to confer with my colleagues and supervisors, and I've done my best to provide quick responses. They're trying to get all this evidence sent over. All videos and images of the case file from Epstein's residence and devices were reviewed for evidence of a crime. So they were already reviewed at one point. These reviews revealed no evidence of any of the searches were conducted, files reviewed, any victims in this case sexually abused, nor did these reviews reveal evidence that anyone other than Epstein or Maxwell participated in the sexual abuse of victims. We are very, very aware of theories circulating in the media and online that Epstein video recorded the abuse of his victims. But we found no evidence to support there is evidence. There are claims in the civil litigation stuff of abuse. So one of the I've done the civil litigation files. Well, you can look at the Epstein file civil litigation, where according to Castle, who was involved in a lot of the stuff that went, a lot of the civil litigation going back to Giuffre, Virginia Giuffre, like he says there's 200 civil litigation cases that he knew. And it's very important to understand what that means when he says 200 civil litigation. So separate cases of victims. So that means there's probably 200 victims, or there are victim pools or something, but there are 200 separate cases. So there's a massive amount of litigation going on under the surface. And a lot of those things are usually the settlements are done under strict non-disclosure files. So yes, I'll pay you, but you won't talk. But even his statement, and he sent that letter of 200 cases to Bondi. So I'm assuming Bondi read it, or at least got something. I mean, she's such a dingbat, she might not have, but she might not. Well, she should know actually the importance of Castle, because a lot of the stuff that went down went down in Florida when she was AG there. So, um, I don't want to read this in great detail, but they're just showing that all of the stuff that they've reviewed this stuff. It's dated the 25th. Um, they're trying to, why this is done. A request from director. So I'm assuming Patel has seen this. This is an interesting document. What's the description of CSAM? Directors follow the audit room completed by Friday. Photograph all items of evidence. Determine the image of videos. And this is EFTA 016490081. One of the other ones is like the redacted. Looking back in context from what the EFTA dropped, this is just a total clown show. This is just a total repulsive clown show. And I bet these dimwits didn't even know what they were holding. They're like holding it up like Trump holds a Bible, like he doesn't know what's in it. He's just putting it up for like some show, some superficial show for light-minded twits. Like it's a total joke. It's a total joke. Let me see if I can find some of those other documents. I mean, she said like, oh, it's on my desk. I've got all this stuff. And there's Cernovich, like he made some statement too recently. This is one of the girls. Let's see if I can find this. She's like from the day of this. Let's see. This is from that day. This is a video. Let's see if I can play this.
I saw y'all on the internet coming for Cash Patel saying he's day 5 and we haven't gotten the Epstein files. Well, I'm here outside the West Wing and look at what we got today. The Epstein files, baby. Let's make America safe again.
Rest in peace, my granny. She got hit by a bazooka. Kaboom.
Just massive redactions,
Kaboom.
So it's just like this event should be like memorialized in history as this February 27th, 2005 event. Very important. And that's really incredible. Like, it's such a joke. Like, this guy is incredible. This is Cernovich. This is March 17th, 2026. He literally wrote. It's just like boggles the mind. We will not get a better FBI director than Cash Patel. Sure. But it's just, and then if you remember, Bondi just kept saying it, it's on my desk. The Epstein files are on my desk. I'm working on this. And then she went on she was constantly on like things. She was in front of she went in front of Congress, if you remember this, and testified before the civil. It was in front of Congress, the Judiciary Committee, I remember. But let me see if I can find those files. She kept saying, it's on my desk, it's on my desk, it's on my desk. I mean, we can do a whole one on Trump and the cover-up too. You guys have any questions or anything? I think this is probably a good time for me to kind of go back and double check some of these other stuff. But this is like the lead up. I got up to about February 27th, but there's just so much going on. The more recent stuff today, Massey, all that stuff. So hopefully Massey will win. I can't believe he would lose. So something's very suspicious about his loss, in my opinion. But thanks for listening, everybody. Please share the show. Go back and look at some of my other stories and investigations in the Epstein files. A lot of it's not clear. A lot of it's covered up. A lot of people are saying there's nothing there. There's a massive amount of information, and it's very hard to go through independently. One of the good news is that there's different people looking at different sides of it. There's different people looking at different aspects of it. But I think looking at what I'm going to do, there'll be a part two to this. But what I'm trying to show is how this hot potato bounced between the right and the left. Because what happened, I think, and I'll show this in my next part too, is that the right used this notion of the FBI files to kind of help slide them into office. And then they realized, oh no, this is a problem. And then the Democrats, the left, were like, well, there must be something in there then. So what's going on? So then they flipped and said, well, let's actually release it. So then that led to the EFTA, which is only a one-page document. It's one-page piece of legislation, which is very strange because usually these bills are like thousands and thousands of pages. But that was like, there were things leading up to the passage of that. Massey did some kind of special legislative technical thing to get it tabled. He jumped party lines, so did Green, so did Boebert. I think Mace did too. But the real story is these guys are covering up this like evil stuff. These people are covering up a lot of evil things. And this is like I've said it before in other discussions or things, is like the notion these guys were into Lolitas is true, but there's other things going on. There's a lot of there's boys, there's people under 10, victims under 10, they call them shrimps. There's that picture of Andrew where he's like got some kid down underneath him, and she's like prepubescent, like she's 12 or 13, like it's really dark, very dark evil stuff. And I really appreciate the support of everybody. You can check out my Patreon. I have a lot of this stuff up there, ad free. I do respond there. I put the PDFs. I'm going to rework this PDF. I had it wasn't properly laid out, but I do put these PDFs on my Patreon, so you can scroll through them yourself, and you can see the EFTA numbers yourselves. You can find those. You can just plug them into the their Injustice site, actually, and check them for yourselves. And my podcast is the top 0.5% podcasts in the world. I have 5 documentaries on my Patreon, 5 books. I just got a new shipment of books. If anybody wants to buy books, you can go to my website, William Ramsey Investigates. And there's a lot more to this story. A lot more to this. Just the cover-up itself is a book in itself. But thank you all for listening. Really appreciate it.